I like Hutchinson the best, and I don't think Linderbaum is worth a top 10 pick. Thibodeau slipped, and I am going to grab Thibodeau. The Giants took Khalil Elam. Good for them. Kenyon Green is a guarantee in my mind. He would be such a dream pick right here. Evan Neal is still on the board. I'm not going to pick this now. That 44 pick could be tight end. That 44 pick could be a good linebacker, a good safety. We could drop back one pick and pick up a second rounder for New Orleans. We got options here. Hello, it is chaos time. No, it's actually time to talk draft. Not really draft, but draft class. The 2023. I'm laughing because as soon as I look at the chat, I see Jacob Finnegan flipping out. New intro. Yeah, you notice that little new intro I snuck in there? I'm proud of that new intro. Yeah, there'll be more coming. I'm into it. So here, this is what the show is about today. Before I get too distracted, we're going to be looking at the 2023 offensive tackle class. So we're going to be looking at, 5, 6, 7 guys. We're going to be looking at skills. What are they good? What's good, bad, the pros, the cons, when we think they'll get drafted, when they think they'll be available. And when I say we, I mean the greatest, scout, college profile analyst. Anyway, he's the greatest in the world. And that's Dom C.
Hey, what's up, Chaos? How are you, buddy? What's up, chat? I can't wait for this, man. This is my time of day, my time of year, my cup of tea. I love it, man. I love it.
We got Mess, Jacob Finnegan, Grandizer, who you could be watching the game, buddy. I appreciate the moderation. He yelled at me, "Don't do this. There's a game on. You can watch the game. It's okay. I'm not going to be upset with you if you're busy watching the game." We got Super Leroy here. Yeah, well, the Giants, we'll catch up to them. Next year's our year. Next year is our year. What's up, Nathan? Ant Jets 82, James Thompson. People are just coming in. So let's give them a little time to come in before we get too serious into the conversation, because I don't want people to miss things.
Sure.
So we could do the warm-up by saying, look, the reason I think we're starting with tackles is obvious. I think if you were to write down like the consensus of all Jet fans, if we were to do a poll, I think about 80% of the fan base is, and this is amazing, we've really matured football fans over years, because there was a time where you'd never have 80% of a fan base wanting a tackle in a draft, right? Remember back when I was
Do you remember last year? Don't even go back when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Do you remember all the people, how offended you get if you considered Ikem Ekwonu or Charles Cross or any of these guys, for Christ's sakes?
Right. But I at least appreciated that the reality that we needed, help in the specialty position in wide receiver. When I was a kid, man, if you didn't take a running back or a wide receiver or a quarterback, if you needed one, it was like hell. Like, this team sucks. How could they do that? Maybe it was just the age of me, and maybe older fans still cared about taking offensive tackles. But look, the reality is our fan base wants a tackle, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can't rely on Becton. We'd love it if he comes back and he's great. That would be awesome. If he comes back and he wins a starting job and he's the Becton we hoped he could be during his rookie year, that's a wonderful thing. No one will complain. We all want Max Mitchell to come back and take a step, get stronger and, continue what he was projecting to be a good career. But neither of them are a sure thing. Dwayne Brown, we don't even know if he's going to be on the team. I doubt we sign Fant. I mean, we clearly need to pick a tackle, right?
I think we need to add one at some point, without a doubt. I mean, facts are what they are. We played this past season, with some scrap heap guys and Mike Remmers and, McDormand and Cedric Obuye, filling up too much spots. I mean, even Max Mitchell, for the, the good that he did when he was out there, he was never expected to really be a part of our starting lineup this year. He did a serviceable job when he was out there, before, and hopefully he gets healthy and they figure out this whole blood clot thing. But like I said, you took him as part of the pipeline, kind of groom him. Let's draft him. Let's groom him. Let's get ready so that, when decisions have to be made on, all right, is it time to move on from George Fant? Is Mekhi Becton, going to get an extension? All that stuff that they were thinking about last April, they could kind of sit and mold and build Max Mitchell into taking the next step. But he got, kind of catapulted into the role, he struggled at first, and then he started to play a little bit more admirably, and then he got hurt. So, so I think for that reason and that reason alone, it would be asinine not to come out of this draft with at least 2 offensive linemen, at your position or at your discretion.
Yeah. And I think, look, and if everybody comes back ready to go, like if Becton comes back, it's a camp 360, like it's projected he might,
Mm-hmm.
and he's fit and in shape, and his knee is strong, and he stays healthy in camp, and he's dominating, and he's balling people over, and then you got if we end up taking a guy with the first, with the 13th pick, and he's a stud, and then you have Max Mitchell and Dwayne Brown, and you have 4 guys, like that are real.
Yeah.
Hey, that's based on what I saw last year and the last couple of years, that we need 4 very good tackles on this team based on the injuries and the things that happened to us.
Sure. And listen, Dwayne Brown at this point is a 50-50 chance that he's come back. I mean, he's under contract, but there's a 50-50 chance that he plays in the NFL. What we saw from him this year, playing basically with one arm, in that torn rotator cuff, makes me think that, he's still got that football dog in him. So I would expect that he gets healthy and, he returns and, he's part of the equation. But I mean, like you said, we get something from Mekhi Becton. It's like, have you ever been to hibachi? You've been to gone out and eaten hibachi, right,
Sure.
Jeremy?
Yeah, of course.
Like they're cooking up for you, and sometimes they give you that little few pieces of shrimp as kind of like a palate appetizer, kind of extra little throw in. Hey, here's some, appetizer while I get all your other, food cooked. You start on this. It's not expected, but it's definitely enjoyable if you get it. That's what I'm thinking. Mekhi Becton, like if he comes back and gives us anything, it's gravy. We have to, unfortunately, go into the season not relying on him. But
Right.
I hope he comes back, and I hope he's as mean and dedicated and focused as he's been tweeting out that he is.
Yeah, look, I mean, to me, in my opinion, he was going to be fine last year. He just got hurt again.
Yeah.
Like he was getting, it's like people don't understand the difference. He came in good shape as far as weight, but he missed over a year. Like it takes time to get back in football shape. They literally took a picture of him taking a knee during practice, and people were like, "See, he's out of shape." And I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Well,
Like, ridiculous.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about it, and I don't want to make this the Mekhi Becton show because everyone's got, everyone's got their own opinion on it. But
Start a debate.
a lot of people don't realize 2 major factors about Mekhi Becton. One is that he didn't have an injury history coming into the NFL. He didn't. He missed 2 or 3 games with a broken thumb in college during his time at Louisville. But other than that, he stayed relatively healthy. Secondly, the knee injuries was not as a result of the other. They were 2 completely separate injuries. Freak in nature, and I'm sure that carrying around 360 pounds has something to do with it. I mean, just I'm 220 pounds and it wears and tears on my joints. I can imagine adding another 140 pounds to that. You know what I mean? So yeah. I think that I think we tend to say, oh, it's the knee. Once it happened, it's always going to happen. Not necessarily the case. I mean, there are 2 completely separate injuries that we have to realize that happens. It sucks. It absolutely was terrible, but that's the situation. You know what I mean?
But, well, and you know what? And just to sum it up, the bottom line is we all agree, even people who love Becton, even the Becton supporters that have hoped for him,
Yeah.
it's not a debate or it's not an argument. There's nothing to fight over. We
Yeah.
all agree we have to assume he's not going to play.
Correct.
We all agree. We all agree that we have to plan as if there's no Becton. That's why we're all talking about drafting a tackle. We're all talking about the fact that we cannot rely on him. All we're saying is if he was to come back fit, in shape, and play like he did his rookie year, that would be very good for our franchise, our organization. If you're a fan of the Jets, you should be hoping that happens because that's a good thing. Because that means that since we're going to plan to go on without him, if he's good, that means we just have an extra thing we didn't know we had.
A very, very good
Yeah,
extra thing.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
good extra thing.
You know?
So with the best we could do is just hope it works out. But we all agree. Nobody is saying don't draft a tackle. We have Becton.
Yeah.
I don't hear anybody saying that. I think we're all on that page.
Yeah.
Do you think Dwayne would do us a solid and wait until after June 1st to retire? I think if he plans to retire, he's going to do what's best for the team.
Yeah, and I gotta be honest with you and Jacob in this comment. I don't know the ramifications of if he if he decides to retire now or if he waits until June 1st. I don't know what the true, cap ramifications. I would think it would be the opposite. I would think that, if you designate him, if you don't designate him, it happens before June 1st, you got to carry his salary cap into the draft and early on the season. I would assume, and again, this is just assumption. I don't know, up from down for in regards to retirement and the rules that stem from it. But I would assume that if he's going to retire, he'd probably want to know earlier rather than later. But I could be wrong. Like I said, I'm not sure how that works with retirement.
But he can tell them I'm going to retire, but I'll wait until after June 1st if it's better for the team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would. And listen, he seems like for the year that we had Dwayne Brown, he seemed like he always said the right things and meant what he said, and kind of, lived that style where it's going to be the team first. I mean, the guy could have just sailed off into the sunset and not played last season. He could have chosen to have the surgery and he would have gotten his money and said, hey, thanks for the 3 weeks of practice or 3 weeks, that I've been here. And I'm going to, sit on the sideline and collect my $8 million. But he didn't, he fought through it and he worked through it with one arm, That's a testament to the character the guy clearly has.
Yep.
So,
yep. And then there was another thing I wanted to. Oh, this is a good question right here. I don't know the names of the tackles we're going over today. We're about to get started. Do you know who he's talking about?
Yeah, Cody Mauch. He's actually one of the. He's number 9 on my offensive tackle list for 2023. He's one of the guys that we're going to talk about a little bit.
Okay, so stay tuned, Daniel. We're going to talk about him.
Yeah.
Daniel's a Miami Dolphin fan. Sorry about your loss today.
Yeah, hey, congratulations, Daniel. You guys, listen. Truth be told, no jabs, no shade being thrown. Like, you guys hung in with a great team, playing with your third string quarterback, and so on and so forth. So, kudos to you. You went into Buffalo; it's a tough place to play, and you gave them a hell of a run. So,
yep. So already people are naming their guys, and I see tackles coming on the board. I know who my favorites are right now, as of right now. Maybe that will change because as we talk about them. But I guess we'll start on the top of your list and work our way to your favorite, right? So let's start. So however many we're doing, why don't we start at the number 10 or number 9 or 8?
Yeah. So I got 10 guys here listed. Okay. Like I said, I didn't want to clog up your stream or the show, getting too far in depth. Shameless little plug for myself, guys. Right around the combine, I'm going to be putting out a full draft guide, which will cover, it covers about, well over 300 players, in depth, pros, cons, good fits, scheme fits, where I think they might fall, so on and so forth. So I'm going to try to get that out to you guys like right around the combine, because I know that the rankings and stuff will change before then, especially next week. After next week, the next week is Senior Bowl, so that's when we start to really get to see some of these guys. And I know Jeremy knows, for all those others that don't know, myself and Green Bean will be at the Senior Bowl. We have full press credentials. We'll be at the practices. We'll be at the meetings. We'll be doing interviews, the whole nine. I'm not staying for the actual game on Saturday. Green Bean is. So you're going to get a lot of coverage of the Senior Bowl practice and the guys that show up and the guys that kind of drop down the list and so on and so forth. I can't wait, man. I'm so stoked for this. So stoked.
Just a quick question. Are you do you know the player Jack Campbell, linebacker out of Iowa?
I know Jack Campbell very well.
Jacob Finnegan is very close friends with him in real life. So
get out of here.
Yeah. So
congratulations, because he's going to hear his name called pretty early. I'd say by day 2, the end of the second round, Jack Campbell will be on an NFL roster, if not earlier.
Nice.
Good ball player, really good ball player.
That's awesome, and we'll talk about him in detail when we do linebackers. So
we sure will. We sure will. So I'm going to say this about the offensive tackle class before we get into it. I think in my opinion only, I think the positional strength of this draft starts at the cornerback. Cornerback is definitely the best and deepest position in this draft, something that we probably don't need. I think the running backs are also very deep and strong. And I also like the tight end class a whole hell of a lot. 3 positions that we probably aren't going to target, at least early, but that being said, I also really like this offensive tackle class. I don't know if the top end, the top 2 or 3 guys are as good as the guys that came out in the top last year. Like, I don't know if there's an Ikem Ekwonu or a Charles Cross or an Evan Neal, guys with that caliber. They might be a notch ahead of the top guys in this draft. But of these 10 guys, I think, by most of them are going to be second, third round picks, maybe, fourth round, depending on how everything else falls. But, most of these guys are going to be ball players. They're going to see some time in the NFL, some of them very quickly and some of them after a year or 2 of development. But I think it's a very deep class, So that being said, if by chance, we either, find some other position or player that we like at number 13 and bypass the offensive tackle, or which I think is more of an option or opinion, trade down or trade out of the first round completely. I don't think that we're bypassing a good tackle, because I think we're going to start getting. I think you're going to see some tackles go off in the second round that are going to play in the NFL and be very, very effective players in short time.
All right.
So I'm going to start with my number 10 rated tackle on the board right now, and that's Javon Foster from Missouri. Okay. He's 6'5", 320 pounds. Last year, he allowed 16 pressures and 4 sacks and over 500 pass snaps. What I like about him is that he's aggressive. He finishes his blocks. And he's, very technically sound against the pass. He's got very, very good footwork for a bigger guy. And also I like that he's a true left tackle prospect. The things that kind of hurt Javon Foster, he's going to be a 24-year-old prospect come April, and that's just going to ding him on some boards. That's just the reality of what it is. And on top of that, he was only a 1-year starter at Missouri. So, he had a good year, but is he one of those one-hit wonders? Or even more so, makes me think, like, why couldn't he get on the field earlier than that? On top of that, he was penalized 14 times last season. So that's going to have to clean up if he's going to play in the NFL. So I think he, of all the guys that we're going to talk about, probably holds that label of developmental tackle. And he's a guy that you're going to see, he's a day 3 prospect. He's a guy that you're going to see come up the board in the 4th round, maybe the 5th round, dependent, he's got some work to do. Although I think technically he can help in both the run and the pass. He's just like he's like a C student right now. He's got to kind of.
What's concerning about that is he's 24, and you're saying he's not ready yet.
Yeah, well, and it took him. He's only played for 1 year. He really only started for 1
Oh,
year. You know,
right.
so all that works against the guy. Like I said,
Mhm.
good pipeline guy. He's a guy you could take and hope to develop over the next 2 years, and hopefully by year 3, year 4, he's ready to go.
In your opinion, what's his ceiling?
I think he can be a serviceable starter.
Okay.
If nothing more, a very good swing tackle, someone along the lines of Andre Dillard in Philadelphia, who was a first round draft pick and just never
Mhm.
panned out. But he ended up finding his niche as a swing tackle. He stepped in and filled in admirably when asked. But I think that Javon Foster's got the chops to play in the NFL. He's just not going to do it on day 1 or day 2.
Cool.
He's gonna take some time.
Right. But definitely a guy. If we wanted him, he's going to be there because
He's a pipeline guy. Yeah, he's a pipeline guy.
He'll be there in the later rounds if the Jets love him or like him. He's very gettable. If you want him enough, you just get him.
Yeah. Well, listen, he's a
Or he's done.
he's a mid-round talent. He's a C student, and there's nothing wrong with C students.
Right. You feel it's a pipeline thing.
Absolutely. So number 9 on my list is Cody Mauch. Cody Mauch played for North Dakota State, where many of us are familiar with North Dakota State because he blocked for Christian Watson, for all those years when he was out there. When Trey Lance was out there, so on and so forth. Cody Mauch is a very, very smooth athlete. He has excellent lateral quickness. He's a big guy, 6'6", 305, but can move very, very well. He's an absolute mauler in the run game. And that's their, North Dakota runs a very, very unique offense. It's very run heavy. It's not your very pass friendly scheme that they have. And it fit him very well. He is an absolute mauler. He's got strong lower half, very strong hips, solid base, strong legs. And what I like about him, he played left tackle last year, but he also has experience starting at North Dakota State at both guard and center as well. So he's very versatile.
Wow, JD loves that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the negatives about him. Another old prospect. He's a 6th-year senior. He took full advantage of the COVID years and all that stuff. So 24 years old, soon to be 25. He's also got short arms. And obviously the Senior Bowl or the Combine, I should say, where the true measurables will come and attack haven't happened, but he's been said to be sub 33, and that just that length or the length limitation will limit him will knock him off of some boards completely. Probably people aren't even going to say they have their check marks, and you need to have X, Y, and Z if we're going to consider it a tackle prospect. So he might just be considered a guard right off the get-go. And you always got to question, like I said, he played for North Dakota State. So how is he going to step up and show against a higher level competition? And that's why the Senior Bowl is going to be wonderful for him. He's not the only guy that's come out of a small school. There's been tons of guys that do it, but most of them make their statement in the weeks like the Senior Bowl or the Combine, where they can show up and get it. But he's a very good athlete. He's very nimble on his feet, both laterally and vertically. So I think he can play. I think you'll see him come off the board late day 2, early day 3. So like you're talking like 3rd round, 4th round. I don't think he'll be a plug and play tackle. He's not a guy that you can just plug and throw him in a tackle. He's going to take some time. Probably better suited to start off at guard, develop, get some more functional strength, put some mass on, and then move outside. So
okay.
So that's Cody Mauch. Cody Mauch from North Dakota State.
That's a guy, maybe serviceable guard early on, when like pretty soon, and then in a couple of years a serviceable tackle.
Yeah, he's a guy that definitely could. He's a guy that definitely could play tackle at some point. I mean, in certain schemes, I think some teams are going to tag him as an interior lineman only. But like I said, I think if you're playing in a San Francisco 49ers or an old New York Jets, outside zone scheme, I mean, Cody Mock fits that as a tackle very well. You know, he has the ability and the speed to get into the second level and really be a menace. You know, he's a run blocker first. You know, he's got to work at some of those pass sets and stuff like that because he just didn't do it a lot. So the Senior Bowl is going to be very, very crucial to where or how Cody Mock ends up in the draft. Right now, I'm thinking, you know, if he falls off the board at day 3, round 3, early round 4, I think that's probably, you know, a comfortable spot for him.
Do you know who's coaching the Senior Bowl?
You know, they changed it up this year. So from what I understand, last year it was the Jets and who was it? Detroit, I believe. I think it was the Detroit coaching staff had the national and the Jets had the American. So from what I understand, I think they're switching it up. I think they're taking coaches from different teams for different positionals.
Right.
So they're going to say, okay, hypothetical, not, you know, Rob Calabrese, you know, you guys really want to look at the quarterbacks? Come on, you can come and coach quarterbacks for one of the team. Oh, and, you know, Ron Middleton, you know, the Jets have an interest in the tight ends. You can go coach, you know, tight ends for another team. And this guy, this guy from this team is going to coach the linebackers. I'm pretty sure that's how they're doing it this year. There's no straight coaching staffs that are going on it as in years past. Yeah.
So thanks for the super chat, Tony. Honestly, I don't think the Niners are going to trade Purdy.
No.
And when I say the Niners aren't going to trade Purdy, I'm saying they're not going to let him go for anything or any price that we would be willing to pay.
No, he's not going anywhere. I mean, he's free money. You know, the guy makes $170,000.
There's so much value in him. There's
absolutely
so much value in him. Yeah.
Listen, I think that there's, you know, if they make a strong run here in the playoffs, which they're absolutely capable of doing, you know, I think there's an argument that, you know, he pushes for the starting job next year.
Oh,
you know,
definitely.
You put him out there and Trey Lance and let the best man win.
Trey Lance might be the guy that's eventually available on the trade market.
Right. Could be. Could be.
Yeah.
So, should we go on?
Absolutely. Number 8.
Yeah. Number 8 is DeJuan Jones from Ohio State. He's a 6'8", 360-pound big boy. Obviously, he's physically dominant. He's a right tackle only. He allowed 5 pressures and 0 sacks last year. And he's just a right tackle. You know, he's a pure right tackle prospect. He's just turned 21 years old, so he's probably still got a lot of growing, both mentally and physically, yet to do. He's got the prototypical size and length you want, 36.5-inch arms. He's got a big, strong, wide base. Like I said, he's hard to get around. I mean, he's just a big body. You know, so you know, very physically resembles Mekhi. You know, not at 6'8", but you know, like just like a big guy. You know what I mean? And you can tell that those big guys are usually very, very dominant. Now, the problem with DeJuan Jones, I think that he's very scheme specific. You know, he's only going to be fit for a gap or power scheme. Think of like Pittsburgh Steelers or who else? Tennessee Titans, you know, those kind of blocking schemes where he's not going to be asked to do a lot in zone or get to the second level. He's not much of a lateral mover, as you can imagine, a guy like that. He's very slow. You know, he's slow of foot. He's quick in his movement and his actions, but he's very slow of foot. I mean, I think he's unofficially timed at 5'6" in the 40. So, you know, he's a big guy and he's just, you know, he's a lumberer.
Right.
You know, he's going to struggle against the speed rush at the next level for sure, because he just doesn't move that good laterally and get set. So he's, you know, his size and his just brute strength. He was able to, you know, just use that sheer upper body power to dominate at the college level. I don't think that he's going to be able to do that in the NFL. You know, so he's going to need to figure out a way to improve his footwork. Maybe he gets lighter. But he's going to need to be able to improve his footwork, or else these guys, these speed rushers, or these guys that come at him with 2 or 3 counter rush moves are just going to, you know, waltz on by him. So he's going to be a day 2 pick. You know, I'd probably say he's a round 3 guy. He could sneak into the end of round 2 if the scheme was right. Like, you know, somebody at the end of the draft that really wanted one of those big hog molly mauler kind of guys, you know, and you get him and you develop him, and he could turn into he can turn into a ball player. I mean, he's got all the chops. He's got the physical down, you know. Now he's just got to learn how to use that physical properly and effectively at the NFL level. He was able to dominate in college with it, but he's not going to dominate. You know, he's not going to dominate at the NFL like that, just on sheer brute strength. It's my opinion.
And what's the expectation for a team that takes him? That he plays year 2 of his career? Would they want him to play year 1?
I guess it really depends on who takes him. You know, listen, Tevin, what was his name? Oh, Tevin Jenkins. He got drafted in the 2nd round by Chicago a couple years ago.
Yeah.
You know, the expectation was that he was going to come in and he was going to be your day 1 tackle, right? But didn't work out. You know, it took some time. It took some adjusting, you know, and now he's found his home inside as a guard, you know, and he was pretty effective this year. I think that's kind of like the same concept as Dawand Jones. Teams might say, hey, he can come in and he can start right away and we can grind behind him and you know, just throw him out there and run power right behind him and watch him just move bodies, you know. But he's going to, you know, I think if he's forced or asked to play early on, that he's going to struggle in the pass set.
Yeah. Okay.
That's Dawand Jones.
I knew this was going to happen. Anytime we talk about a guy that's big, people are going to be a little afraid and back off and be shy of him because of Becton. And the injuries. But I do want to remind people there are big tackles in the NFL that don't have injury issues.
Yeah.
It's not automatic that a big guy is not, you know, not.
And Dawand Jones does not have an injury history in college, so he just happens to be a big boy. And there's a bunch of big boys in this class. There's a bunch of big boys. And I want to touch on Campion's comment here.
This one?
Yeah. So only 31% of first round picks signed an extension with the original team. It's less in later rounds. Age doesn't mean a thing. I agree with the facts that you're laying there, but I disagree when you say that age doesn't mean a thing, because there's absolutely, undoubtedly, general managers and front offices that will just completely cross a guy off the board if they are too old. You know, Michael Clemens, for instance. Michael Clemens had this, you know, had the skill set and the chops that he should have been an earlier round pick. I mean, he could have been a 2nd round pick. You know, he fell to the 4th or 5th round because he was a 25-year-old rookie. That's just the reality. There's teams that will not take guys that are over 21, 22 because of the fact that, you know, you think that you might get, you know, hopefully you get 4 years out of these guys, right? You hope that they last the first round, you know, their first ring, and you're going to get your most aggressive, athletic, you know, kind of hitting their stride in that 21 to 25 range. You know what I mean? By 27, I mean, that's NFL old, for Christ's sakes. I mean, maybe not the offensive line, but a lot of positions. 27's, you know, NFL old.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Okay. All right. You're welcome. You're welcome. Of course. That's what we're here for. Answering questions, talking football.
Yeah.
So thanks for being here and asking the question.
I don't know if I don't know if I didn't see his question, so I don't know if he's saying that tongue in cheek or not. I don't know. That's fine. I'm trying to go back and look through.
Well, I think he would. Hold on. Was it?
Yeah, I don't know.
I thought that I highlighted his thing. That's why. But yeah, everybody understands.
Yeah, we're gonna. There's gonna be plenty of time to get through the chat and answer the question.
Well, I didn't finish his comment. So he said he likes Paris Johnson, Broderick Jones, but it's not really a question. And we're going to talk about a bunch of guys.
And we're going to talk, and all those three guys will all be talked about very soon.
Right. We're going to talk about them.
Yeah. So number 7 on my list, I got Matt Bergeron. He's a 6'5", 325-pound tackle out of Syracuse. Again, another guy who's, you know, for a big guy, 325 pounds, he moves like a gazelle. Very, very good movement, explosive both laterally. on those pulls and those screens, and vertically getting into the second level and really picking up blocks. He's got experience at Syracuse playing both left tackle and right tackle. And he's more than capable to do either. I think that he's an ideal zone blocking scheme fit for at the next level. He needs to get stronger. He doesn't have that functional play strength that you would hope that he probably falls lower on the scale of all the offensive tackle prospects in this draft in regard to functional strength. He needs to improve. He needs to figure out how to work with his hands a lot better. His hand placement and the timing that he throws those punches and jabs is just not great. Like I said, he's used athleticism to get him to this point. Now he's got to really develop some of the techniques. So, if he's slow with his hands, or he's not punching in, getting him in the right spot, those defensive linemen, they play those hand games and they'll chop and rip right through you and so on and so forth. So he can't let the defensive guys get on him as much as he did, and Jared Verse, who was a edge rusher for Florida State, who actually decided just last week to go back to college, probably would have been a top 10 pick. He ate Bergeron's lunch, and Jared Verse was known as one of the best hand fighters out of all the edge prospects. The way that he sets up and jabs and swipes and so on and so forth. And he really got at Matt Bergeron really, really well. I think that Matt Bergeron, like I said, I think he's got the skills to play tackle in the NFL. He's another guy who's not going to be plug and play. He's another guy that's going to need a year or two to just really get stronger. That core strength, that overall strength, a little bit more in the legs and the hips as well. So he's a guy that has that pipeline thing. But think Max Mitchell when you think Matt Bergeron.
I was thinking Max Mitchell the way you were talking about.
Yeah, it's same exact kind of idea and concept. Very similar in their play style as well. Both of them are very, very mobile tackles, that can get out and, can work in space, use leverage well, but they're not just they lack that raw power and strength that that some other tackles in the league or even in the draft class have. So and he's going to be a day two. He'll be a day two pick. He'll probably go in the third round at some point. He's going to make some zone blocking scheme offensive coordinator very happy when he's on the board. And he'd be he'd be a great guy to have. If we're talking about the Jets, he'll be a great guy to have as our pipeline of what Max Mitchell was going to be last year. Let's get this guy some reps in practice. Let's get him in the weight room. Let's put some mass on him, get him a little stronger, and then tie that in with the excellent athleticism that he shows. And he can turn out to be somebody.
And you say he's a day two guy, third round?
Yeah, I think he's a third round pick. He's top 100. So maybe that puts him in the third round. Maybe it puts him right at the top of the fourth round, right around there. He's probably a top 100 player.
Okay.
So,
just before we move on to the next player,
sure.
I just got to quickly cover the super chats.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Tony Alexio, for your another super chat. I appreciate it. Who is your favorite OC? Let's see, we're sticking to topic here with the Streveler package.
Greg Roman, Baltimore.
I guess that makes sense. I don't know, man. I guess if they were thinking that mattered and they wanted an OC that could work with Streveler, they would definitely take a guy who's played with a mobile quarterback who they've used, where they've designed running plays for it. I guess the best I can answer. Yeah. I don't know who that is, but the Baltimore guy, maybe whatever his name is, the guy from Arizona who just got fired,
Cliff Kingsbury, who has told NFL executives that he's not interested in coaching next year,
and jeopardized his ability to get paid out his contract because you're not allowed to do that. So, yeah.
To answer Finnegan's question, yes. That is a Wesley Walker jersey right there, my friend. Signed and everything.
Nice.
Pretty nice, right? I like it.
Pretty nice. So, okay. Are we ready for number 6, I think?
We're ready for number 6.
Okay.
Number 6. Really, really, really good football player. Really, really, really good football player. I liked his film a lot more than I thought I was. I'm going to be honest with you. Blake Freeland from BYU, 6'8", 305. He allowed 7 pressures and 0 sacks last year. Has only been playing offensive tackle for 3 years. He came to BYU as a 250-pound tight end prospect. And just kept going and kept growing and decided to move from tight end to the outside. He was also had numerous, from what I understand and doing my research and due diligence, he also had a lot of Division I scholarship opportunities to throw the javelin. I guess he was an all-state champion in track and field. So, he's an exceptional athlete. Just being a former tight end, that helps him that much more.
How old is this guy?
You know what? I don't know exactly Blake Freeland, but I'm guessing. I'm gonna guess, guys. So please, this is not meant to slander or say anything negatively, but I'm assuming that he's Mormon from BYU. So I don't know if he went. I don't know if they tend to have older prospects because of the missions that they go on. So I don't know. So I don't know exactly how old he is. I'm sure we can find that out.
Right. No, that's fine. I mean, that's why I was asking, only because I see BYU and I always think, okay,
yeah,
25.
Yeah.
Right. So.
But like I said, it's 6'8", 305 pounds. He's imposing. Mm-hmm. And M. Morris says that he's 20 years old. That's great. Maybe he hasn't gone on his mission yet. Or maybe he's not Mormon at all. So I don't know.
Right.
At 6'8", 305, he's just an imposing body. And he's got very, very strong, very, very strong hands, a good grip. He freezes guys in their tracks as he jolts them with his arms. He's obviously at 6'8", he's extremely long. He's got the prototypical length that you want in an offensive tackle. He's got that great reach, which helps him immensely. And defenders, he does a great job, a phenomenal job in the run game. And that's just because he's so long and he's so, just physically so strong, and tied that in with his, elite athleticism. He knows how to position his body, knows how to wall off very well. He's got great awareness, and, he can come off of blocks, that good movement that he has. He can pick up those stunts and twists and all those games that the defensive line play on him. The only thing is, at 6'8", just naturally, he plays very high. So he loses the leverage battle a lot, and I don't know if that's something that you can, I don't know how coachable that is to get a guy who's, 6'8" to just play lower. It's got to be tough. He's not very flexible. He's got stiff hips. And he's very raw. He's got a very raw tackle skill set. So he's going to need to improve his footwork to be able to keep up in pass protection. Right now he's a run first tackle. And he's not a match for a lot of teams. He's probably a zone scheme fit only, just because he's just, that's just the way he moves. That's how he goes. But he's very, very raw. He's going to need to improve his pass blocking and his overall footwork and pass skill set. So he's going to fall. He's going to be a second round pick. He's going to fall off in day 2. He's a guy I can see that can come in and get some meaningful snaps right away. I don't know if they're going to be ideal, but I think he'll come in and play some meaningful snaps, and I think he can, slide in at a right tackle for a lot of teams with pretty much ease, and eventually move over to the left side as well once he gets those pass blocking chops a little bit more honed in.
So you think for some teams he might be plug and play?
I mean, play him. Yeah, listen, I guess you would hope if you're taking somebody in the second round that they're going to, every team is different, a team might just really, really like him. He might be high on their board, but they might have 2 established tackles in there already,
Well, think about this, like the Jet situation, right? They take a guy like this, and it's like kind of that variable, like, well, Becton comes back and Becton stays healthy in camp and looks great.
Yeah.
And is playing really well, and Max Mitchell comes back and is playing really well, then you don't have to start Blake if he's not ready. But if he's outstanding and he earns the job, maybe he starts over Mitchell, maybe he starts over Becton. So
listen, if we're talking if we're talking about the Jet scenario and Jet scenario only, and just say Blake Freeland was the pick in the second round,
Yeah.
I think you can argue that he gets a shot to earn that right tackle slot. I don't think you slide him in. You draft him, expecting to slide him into the left.
Right.
So
it would be like he doesn't have to be plug and play. I mean, he
Yeah.
might be a good fit for the Jets if there's someone that the Jets just can't turn down at 13, or if there's a trade offer of a package we can't turn down.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify, this is a guy that might be realistic, right?
All these guys are realistic. I mean, they're all going to get drafted.
Yeah.
And when you say realistic, it just, you got to hone in what's your definition of realism.
Based on our situation where we might need a guy that's going to have to come in and play.
Yeah. Do I think Blake Freeland could play off I think he could challenge for a starting spot. I absolutely do. I think that starting spot would be on the right side, though. I don't think that he's a plug and play left tackle.
Right. Gotcha.
So, next, number 5 on my list, and Tyson Madden. I knew somebody was going to say that. You hear BYU and everyone cringes.
I can't do that. I can't get into these rules of you can't pick a guy from this college, and I can't do it because it's like you just can't do that. Every player is different.
Every player is different. But if you told me, quarterbacks from BYU, I might shiver a little bit, but that's for another day. Jets gang, tonight we're just doing the offensive tackles. We'll do the offensive interior line at some point, which will include the centers and the guard prospects. Just to answer that question here, he asked if we were doing centers tonight. Tonight we're just talking about the tackles, man.
Just the tackles. We got 5 more to go. So people are yelling at names impatiently.
Yeah.
Just wait. Your guy might come. If he doesn't come, okay, then but like, just wait till he gets all 5. Your guy might be in the top 5. That's why we haven't said his name yet.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, I think my guess would be what you're going to say is only the top maybe 3 guys might be better than Becton if Becton is healthy and playing the way we know and have seen him play.
I don't know. That's a tough question. That's a tough question to ask. I mean, I think the top. I have personally in my rankings, I have first round grades on the top 4 guys. I have first round grades on the top 4 guys.
So all 4 guys might give Becton a run for his money.
I think all 4 guys could give Becton a run for his money, but it comes with such a caveat and such an asterisk because we don't know what Becton's going to put to the table. You know what I mean?
Right.
Is Becton's potential better than all of them? Yes, I think so. But we don't know what we're getting, so we don't know if it's damaged goods, if it's unhealthy, or so on and so forth. So it's really a hard question it's really a hard question to ask.
Yeah.
Or answer, I should say. So number 5 on the list. And I've seen a lot of guys who do this, for a living, unlike myself. But a lot of guys do this for a living. I've seen Darnell Wright from Tennessee, who's my number 5 guy, up as high as number 1 on some of their boards. I mean, some guys really, really love the player. 6'6", 335 pounds. He is dangerous. He's mean. He's that nasty son of a bitch.
I love those guys.
And he's probably the best, in my opinion, the best pure right tackle in this class. He's one of those guys that plays with a nasty streak. He plays with a high motor, and he's got a versatile skill set. For a big guy, he can move too, so he can fit in a power gap scheme or a zone blocking scheme. It could be very proficient in both sides of it. He's got, again, 335 pounds. He's got a solid base. He's got strong hands, and it's hard to get through him. It's hard to get around him. He's a big guy, that plays with just that nasty streak, he reminds me, he's like an old school throwback offensive tackle, like the guy that, is bleeding from the bridge of his nose and, plays well through the whistle and so on and so forth. Like, he's that kind of mean. And he held up great against Alabama and Georgia, and that shows a lot because, most of those guys from teams like that hold the skill set of the guys in the NFL. So, he did a good job against them. So he's a little bit stiff. He doesn't have the best bend. Like I said, he's a big boy. and he tends to play off balance at times. So one thing when I watched him play specifically in numerous games is I thought that he was on the ground way too much. It's a little bit too much of a lunger, off balance. So he spends too much time on the ground, so he's got to work on really keeping his feet under him and really delivering power with his hips and his arms better instead of getting a little too far out. But like I said, he's a little bit stiff, so he doesn't have the greatest bend. And he's quick, like I said, for a 6'6", 335-pound guy, he's quick with movements, but he's slow of foot. So, he might do well if he probably loses a couple pounds. It'll only benefit him. 335 isn't overweight or anything like that. But if he had a playing weight of say 320, 315, 320, I think it could benefit him a lot more. He's a top 50 guy. His name's gonna be called off. Early to mid second round, and I wouldn't be shocked if he does get into the end of the first round. If guys start seeing and want to take a jump on one of these tackles, like if his name was in the first round, it wouldn't shock me at all. I don't know if you remember last year, Jeremy, but one of the tackles that I really loved was Tyler Smith out of Tulsa.
Yeah.
And I kept saying, I think this guy's going to go in the first round. Everyone else, forecasted him in the second or third round. And Dallas reached up and grabbed him in the first round. Now, he played guard most of the time for Dallas this year, but young kid, same kind of attitude as him, just like a nasty, kind of punch you in the face kind of guy, spit on you while you're down and then do it again. He's that kind of tackle.
Well, yeah, we need that kind of stuff because I still think I think we got a little tougher. I still think we have a ways to go. I mean, I love Garrett Wilson out there. Though, his attitude and the way he's yelling and screaming, and he's a man. You know what I mean? He's a man. Yeah. He's a rookie, but he's a man.
Yeah.
And I know that with our tight ends, we were getting some grown men in the room, but like to get a lineman, to get one of those nasty kind of guys. I remember the Giants had, was it Hernandez?
Yeah, exactly. That same kind of just like nasty, you're not going to get past me. I'm going to knock your ass out kind of guy.
Right. And if you hit my quarterback late, I'm going to get in your face and I'm going to throw you on your ass.
Yeah, that's right, man. That's the kind of player he's going to be. And he's a guy that I think more so than Blake Freeland can come in and play some meaningful snaps right off the get-go, but he's a right tackle and he's a right tackle only, in my opinion.
Right.
Number 4. And I struggled with this one because I really like the player a lot. I might be a little bit too high on him, might be higher than most, but I almost put him at 3. But I going back and forth, he's one of those names that I changed a bunch as I was trying to finalize my updated rankings. Is Anton Harrison from Oklahoma. Anton Harrison, 6'5", 315 pounds. He was a 3-year starter at Oklahoma. Throughout his entire college career, he only let up 3 sacks and 19 quarterback pressures. That's every time he took the field. The guy is a technician. He's a pure technician, and he's undoubtedly the best pure pass blocker in this class. Think Charles Cross from last year. Charles Cross was the top 10 pick, right? He went 9 overall to Seattle. He went right before we took Garrett Wilson. And he was the 3rd tackle taken off the board, taken number 9. And the questions on Cross lied around. Well, we know he could pass block, and we know he's going to excel at that, but can he hang in the run? And he showed this year that he very well could. And I think Anton Harrison kind of comps very well to Charles Cross. He's got good natural bend. It allows him to use leverage very well. To his advantage, he knows how to use his body. He seals off well, creates lanes just, by using that advantage that he has in leverage and great body positioning, So he does struggle a little bit, when there's a big, stronger defender lined up head on him, one-on-one, that's not his strength, and unlike like we talked about before, he lacks that nastiness or that mean streak that you want to see. He seems like he's almost too calm at times. You know what I mean? and he's got average length. He's got modest length. He's not the biggest. He's not the longest. But I think his overall play strength and functional strength is going to need to improve. He needs to get stronger. He's going to need to get stronger. But I have him as a top 30 pick. I think he's a guy that you're going to see as, the third or fourth tackle taken off the board, probably in that late 20s range. Cincinnati could use a tackle. Kansas City could use a tackle. That kind of range. If Buffalo decides that they want to move, they want to perhaps, take a tackle, he's a guy that I could see falling in that range. He's going to be, I think he'll be a first rounder, probably in the late 20s, somewhere around there, 20, 30, 20 or 30 overall. But I think he's going to be a consummate professional. He can come, he's going to come in and help a team that is very pass centric and pass happy right off the bat. He's going to be, and they're going to make him he's going to make them very happy. Like I said, perfect comp is Charles Cross from last year.
Yeah. Okay. And again, can he potentially or possibly be, if we're talking about first round, eventually a Pro Bowler?
I mean, that's hard to gauge off of a college kid.
Yeah.
I got to be honest. I got to be honest with you. I'd be just fabricating stuff if I said that I think he has Pro Bowl potential. I think he's got all the potential in the world to be a 10-year starter in the league
That we're happy with.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's one of those guys that you're probably not going to hear a lot from him. But when you think about offensive linemen, if you don't hear their names being called all that much, it's probably a good thing. That means they're not getting beat. That means they're not getting penalties, so on and so forth. We talked about, oh my God, who did we talk about? Was it Cody Mauch? We said was he's like a C student. Anton Harrison's like a B student. He does everything. He does everything very well. He's got some improvements to make. And somebody's got to, he might need a kick in the pants sometimes, because he looks like he's just too calm, cool, and collected at times. But again, Oklahoma's offense was geared around, really being the best possible pass protector you can be and letting everything else happen with the run game,
Yeah.
So he might come in, he might come in and tear the, and tear the nuts right off of the NFL, but from what I saw and the tape that I saw, like I said, he struggled with bigger, stronger defenders that were lined up, head to head.
Yeah.
So
Do you know this guy?
Wanya
Morris.
Let me look where I have him on my list.
Wasn't a top 10.
It wasn't a top 10.
I was just curious because I know that he's not coming up because I know he wasn't like the three that's left. I know the three that's left at this point. So
yeah, sure.
I think everybody knows the top three. I mean, that's not much of a debate.
Yeah. Wanya Morris he's a right tackle only. I got to be honest with you. I haven't watched a ton of his tape. So I'd be just making stuff up if I talked about him.
Right. Okay, that's fine. Can't look at every single player in college.
Not all the time. No, I mean I try to, but I haven't really drilled down film on every single prospect yet.
Right.
And before I put out my draft guide, I want to. So I don't want to talk, kind of out of my ass about somebody about that. So top three guys, you guys are all going to know the names, right? These are the guys that. All three of these guys are legitimately options if we choose to stay at 13 and take a tackle. If they're there, that should say. And my number 3 prospect off the board is Paris Johnson Jr. from Ohio State. 6 foot.
So he's your number 3.
He's my number 3. 6'6", 310 pounds. He's got guard and tackle experience. He has a great combination of size, speed, and athleticism. He's a great run blocker. Right now, he's a phenomenal. He's an elite run blocker right now. He plays with power. He plays with good technique. He's nasty. He wins at the point of attack and in space. So I think he doesn't fall as a scheme specific. draft pick. You know, he can play in any scheme you put him in. What I liked doing some research about him is that, you know, he's got that team captain behind him, and that his coaches everyone raves about the leadership that this guy brings. You know, he's got like elite high end character as a human, and as a football player. And like I said, I think he's the best pure run blocker of all the offensive linemen in the class. You know, now, where does he need to improve? I think he needs to improve that anchor a little bit. You know, he's another guy that tends to reach and lunge and get off balance at times. He allows the rushers to get into his body too much. He doesn't, you know, he doesn't punch or use his hands and arms and the length that he has in them to his advantage. He's more of a catcher than he is a puncher. And you know what happens if you let a defensive lineman who's got all momentum get into your body like that, you're dead meat. You know, so I don't think that I think that his pass sets and his slides and kicks and just all that technical pass blocking stuff is well below what he is as a run blocker. It's not poor, but it's well below. So I question if he's a plug and play left tackle.
Really?
I do.
Wow.
Whereas the next two guys
give up sacks because he might give up like
yes.
the
next two guys that we're going to talk about, I think you can plug and play at left tackle without hesitation.
So this guy, there's concern. Listen,
he might be a great left tackle. I'm not saying he's not. Because he's a phenomenal athlete and he's a phenomenal prospect. It's not. I'm not saying that in a negative way, but I question if he's going to be a plug and play, you know, right from day one left tackle. You know, he could be a plug and play offensive lineman. Maybe it's on the right side, or maybe it's in at left guard or something like that, to then develop in year 2 and move out to left tackle.
It sounds like some of the things you're talking about is coachable because he has the physical attributes.
He has he's
do more punching and less receiving.
He's as physically gifted as any other tackle in this draft class.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But some of it's technique. And like I said, and that being what it is, you know, the other two guys I think have more all around skill sets where I think you can draft them and plug them in at left tackle if you wanted to. So that's Paris Johnson. And listen, I wouldn't be surprised if Paris Johnson's the first tackle taken off the board. You know, because everyone with these top 3, top 4 guys are going to have their own opinions and their own ideas and their own fits, especially the GMs and the coaches who are drafting them. So it wouldn't surprise me if Paris Johnson's the first tackle off the board. He just happens to be my number 3. I still think that he's a first round talent. I think he's a top 15 guy. You know,
sure.
There's no way he's going to make it past 15 overall. So that says a lot for him right there. He's going to be in the first half of the first round, without a doubt.
Tony, thanks for the super chat again. How did Douglas pass on Gable? Worst mistake.
Dable, you mean? Brian Dable?
This is the guy everybody's chanting his name in Jacksonville.
I don't know who he's talking about. I'm assuming he's talking about Brian Dable, the Giants coach.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'll say this, Tony Alexio. You know, it's hindsight is 2020, and the guy's doing a great job, you know. But he had, you know, numerous coaching interviews with numerous organizations, as well as the Jets. I don't even know if the Jets ever brought him in for a formal interview. Could be wrong, but I know that he interviewed, you know, for quite a few years with a number of teams, and a lot of teams had the same thing and said they just didn't think he was ready to lead an organization yet. You know, maybe they were all wrong. Or maybe, you know, whatever it took to get him to the Giants was exactly what he needed, you know?
Yeah, that's where he was meant to be. But you know what? There's still a possibility. He won the game of getting to the playoffs first. But if he doesn't win a Super Bowl, and Saleh does, if the Jets win a Super Bowl in 2 years, then we're not going to be saying we shouldn't have passed on Gable. Like you know, we won't be having this conversation. We'll be very happy that Robert Saleh is our coach. We don't know right now that we made a mistake. He
absolutely not.
He came in and went 4-13 with a garbage team that was 2-14. He brought it to 7 and 10 with some, unfortunately we had some bad injuries. He's learning as a coach. I'm not saying he's a Superman coach, but we don't know that we're not going to get a better quarterback and win 11 games next year and take that next step forward and make a real playoff run. And then the year after that, we win a Super Bowl. Like, this all could happen still.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so let's not close the door on Robert Saleh being a good hire, because it's not over yet.
No, I don't. I'm not I'm not down on Saleh. Can he improve? Yeah, he's a second-year coach, but I'm not in the position to say that we made the wrong choice yet.
No.
Campione, Steen. Steen was, he's in my top 15. I don't necessarily. I don't ever agree with Walter Football.
They're the worst.
I don't really. I try not to guide my decisions based on anyone's rankings, but I just happen, in my opinion, my humble opinion and my experience, that Walter Football kind of, I don't know if they're trying to make a splash or something like that. Steen's a good guy. He's not very aggressive. He's got the body. I don't think he's definitely not going to be a first round pick. Maybe he's a day 3 guy, third round, or late third round, early fourth round guy. But yeah, I mean, that's just, like I said, I think the 10 guys that we had here, get drafted and really showed better on film than Steen did. So number 2, top 2 here, guys.
All right, here we go.
Top 2. My number 2 is Broderick Jones.
Broderick Jones,
6'4", 310 pounds, out of Georgia. Again, a 3-year starter. Only allowed 2 sacks in all of his time in college. He is just strong. He has strong hips. He's got a strong upper body, great leg drive, big tree trunks for thighs. Again, ideal size, speed, length, and athleticism for an NFL left tackle. He's a smart football player. And what I like about him is that, he's a guy where you're at the goal line and you need to get a yard, or, third and short and you need to get a yard. Like, he's the guy you're going to run behind, and he's going to impose his will on the player or players in front of him. He's just big and strong. I really like the player. I really like the film that he put out. If I can find anything to nitpick about him, it seemed to me, like I said, he uses his ridiculous upper body strength way too much. Like, there's a lot of blocks that he just stops using his feet, and he can still win because he's just physically stronger than a lot of the guys that he played in college. And again, it's not going to be this. He's not going to win on just pure brute strength alone in the NFL. He definitely needs to refine, some of his pass blocking skills. He's a little bit inconsistent with his kick slide. So he has a tendency to struggle against the speedy guys. And he needs to utilize, that sheer strength and leverage a little bit better. Like I said, he's very strong. He's one of those guys that could probably, bench press a Volvo, and that'll get you so far at college. It's not going to, you can't win on just that alone in the NFL, but I think Broderick Jones is a lock, solid top 15 pick in this draft. Wouldn't be surprised if he's the first tackle taken off the board. Wouldn't be surprised if he's the third or fourth. I like him as a left tackle. I think he's a guy that you can draft at 13. Say, okay, he's going to be our left tackle, and Mekhi, if you're healthy, you're gonna work it out at the right side. I really think that he's one of the guys that I think could probably push Mekhi Becton from left tackle to right tackle.
So. One thing I noticed that, and we'll look at this later, is, and I know that if JD has him on the board and he's the guy, and he's not going to play any games. But for the fun of mock drafts, you definitely don't have to take Broderick Jones with 13. You could trade down and get just a lot of good picks, and
with a grain of salt, because the mock drafts in January are not what's going to happen in the real thing come April.
I agree, and my example is always that Sauce Gardner in January last year was a guy that was projected at day 2, early second round, or end of the first round, depending where you looked.
Yeah.
And the first person that started really talking him up that I knew was Frankie. And, Frankie was like, Sauce Gardner, Sauce Gardner. I was like, who is this guy, Sauce Gardner? I couldn't find him because I didn't know his name was Ahmed. Ahmed. He just kept on calling him Sauce.
Yeah.
And when I finally found him, but then over the next 2 months, we watched him climb up. And then all of a sudden, people said, we don't even know if he'll be there at 4.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy cow. But Frankie was in love with him when he was like, you could have him at the end of the first round.
Yeah. So a couple things about Broderick Jones. I know some people, again, we Jets fans get tied into that whole negative kind of connotation around BYU players. Thank you, Zach Wilson. But a lot of people out there also have this negative connotation about Georgia tackles. They think of Isaiah Wynn from the Patriots completely busted and so on and so forth. Now, I will say this. Broderick Jones, a 3-year starter, was not able to beat out Jamari Sawyer, who's now the left tackle for the Chargers this year and was a 5th-round draft pick last year. He wasn't able to beat him out last year. So he played right tackle while Sawyer played left. And, he moved over to the left this year and was outstanding, I thought. So, is there bust potential? Listen, I'm going to say this. There's bust potential on all 300 guys that I'm going to put out in my draft book. Nobody knows who's going to hit and who's not, So, could he bust? Sure, he could bust. Could he be an all-pro? Sure, he could be an all-pro. So, who has a higher grade coming out of college, Becton or Jones? Personally, I had a higher grade on Becton than Jones, and I want to see the Jets take the Jones, by the way. So I think Becton had a higher grade or was looked at by most NFL teams as a more effective player. I think that class that he came out with, Becton, with Andrew Thomas and the kid from Cleveland and the kid from Tampa Bay. I think that tackle class was very, very good. I think it's, overall the top end of it grades a lot higher than these guys. So I think Becton probably had a higher grade coming out. Something I can look up or something anyone can look up. So, but I really like Broderick Jones, and if he was a pick, I would not be upset in the least. Like I said, I think he's going to be a very good ball player.
So Tony Alexio comes in and says, we want Strevler for franchise quarterback and fullback, dummy.
Yeah, and Gunner. And Gunner on kickoffs, right? So
I love this guy. He pisses people off, but I love him. Yeah. Tony, you're funny. You really want to get your Strevler message in today. We know you love Strevler, man. And I see you're spelling it right this time, right? I think you got it spelled right.
Strevler.
It's even better. When you spell it right, it really helps. Thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my number one guy on my board right now, and I preface this in by I reserve the right that this list may change based on performances at, Senior Bowls and combines and testing and so on and so forth. But right now, my number one guy is Peter Skoronski from Northwestern. 6'4", listed at 300 pounds, but definitely played less than that in college, which is a little bit of a question mark. But this guy, he's truly the best offensive lineman, regardless of position in this draft. He's an ultimate technician. He's got the perfect combination of crisp strikes with his hands, powerful hands, a solid base, a great anchor. He dominates. He mirrors very well in pass protection. He's the most ready to start prospect in all of the offensive line in this draft class. He's got a super high IQ. He's a smart, intelligent, heady player. And he can play all 5 offensive line positions. So you get versatility. He came into Northwestern as a center. And then and then he played a little bit of guard, and he ended up kicking outside. When who was it? Darrisaw? Was it Darrisaw? Who was the left tackle from Northwestern that got drafted a couple years ago?
The only thing I know about Darrisaw is he got drafted way too high by the Raiders.
No, Darrisaw was not a Raider.
Oh, he wasn't? Who's the guy I'm talking about that the Raiders drafted at 22 years ago?
Oh, Leatherwood.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
Rashawn Slater. Thank you, Jacob. Yeah, Rashawn Slater. When the Rashawn Slater left school, they
Right.
kicked Skoronski outside, and he just excelled at left tackle. Now, you know, the fatal flaw that Peter Skoronski is going to have is that a lot of teams are going to say that he doesn't have the length to play tackle, and I call bullshit on it. You know, he's got average athleticism. He's not the most average. I mean, he's not the most athletic tackle in the draft, but I think the whole package, we put it together, what he can do in the run game, what he can do in the pass game, and just the skill sets that he offers. I don't care if he has sub 33-inch arms, you know. And this is my Jet fan in me, but the perfect comp to this guy is AVT. This guy is AVT. Absolutely. Now, I thought, and I'm going to be the first to admit, I thought bouncing AVT outside for the Pittsburgh game and wherever else he played outside for us, I thought that was going to be a mistake, and I thought he was going to suffer, but he didn't. You know, he's just a football player.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Peter Skoronski is a very, very good football player. You know, he's going to need to, you know, listen, he's going to need to put on a little bit of weight, and I think that'll happen in the offseason once he gets with some of these strength and conditioning coaches. They're going to have him probably at a play weight at about 310, 315, you know, instead of the 295 he played in college. But he's just got the total package. I just really like I really liked the prospect a lot. You know, so right now he's my number one. And you know, he's not gonna be everybody's cup of tea. You know, there's gonna be teams that don't think he could play tackle, and he might come in and be an all-pro guard very, very quickly. You know, I think he can effectively play tackle, and I love the versatility that he has. That if your center goes down, let's move Skoronski out there. Oh, your right guard moved down. Let's move, you know, let's put in our swing tackle, left tackle, and let Skoronski play right guard. Like that versatility, like the AVT offers, is just so valuable to an offensive line team. So
I think, look, I know Tigo doesn't think he's going to be there. He thinks and he might be right. Yeah, it might be this guy might be a top 8 pick, but at the same time, he also might be there because,
as I said,
like you said, the team that might have normally picked him might say, we don't like the length of his arms.
Yeah. So
it's just like boom, game over.
Yeah, as I said, guys, I really think that you could take the top 3 tackles and you can put them in any order, and it wouldn't shock me in any way, shape, or form. If somebody took Paris Johnson first, or somebody took Broderick Jones first, or somebody took Skoronski first. I think as a Jets fan, sitting at 13, there is a possibility that Skoronski could fall, because I think there's going to be some teams that don't see him as a tackle, and no one's going to want to take, you know, it's rare to take a guard in the top 10. You know, it doesn't happen often. You know, so if you have him pegged as only a guard, then I think, you know, there's a chance that he slips. But,
I mean, AVT was like the closest thing to a sure thing of what he was and who he is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the time, like we all knew this is a guard, amazing that you can play at tackle. Right. We kind of.
Well, he was a tackle. Let's get it right. In college, you know, the last he was a left tackle. He was a left tackle, but he was a left tackle in college who everyone said, you know what, you're going to be great at guard in the NFL.
And that was enough to push him down to 15, 16.
Correct.
Right.
Braden, my dude, Skoronski.
The same thing with Peter. Maybe we see him at 13 for the same reason.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Right.
You know, so I'm going to say this, guys. You know, I saw a bunch of stuff in the chat. You know, should we trade up for him? I don't think that the top 3 are that there's a big separation in regards to tiers. Like, I happen to think Skoronski is the best. I happen to think Broderick Jones a little bit better overall than Paris Johnson. But I don't think any of them, this is me. If I'm GM, I don't think that I need to trade up to make sure I secure any of them. I think whoever falls to 13 is going to be best, because I wouldn't want to spend more draft capital when we're going to have holes to fill to go up and get a guy when I can sit pretty and probably get one. Now, it's a different story if 2 of them are off the board in the top 10. Then do you want to decide to move up? You know, if you have those 3 at a tier and then a big fall off after that. So
I see it as I think, in my opinion, if we end up trading the 13th pick,
Mhm.
in my opinion, it's much more likely that will be to go backwards
Exactly.
and
I agree.
acquire more capital.
I agree wholeheartedly.
So, and it could be this guy not being on the board as the reason why we trade back.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know. There might be a chance that JD is sitting there. It's very, very possible. If Peter's there, we're taking him. If he's not there, we're trading back.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what the mind of Joe Douglas or their scouting team thinks. Maybe they think Skoronski can't play tackle, and maybe he's not on the board at 13 because they're not going to draft a guard. They don't need a guard, and they're not going to draft a guard that high.
Yeah.
So maybe at that point they say, okay, let's move down and let's look into the tier of Bergeron or Harrison or Wright or something like that.
Right.
So
So Tony Alexia comes in again with another super chat. Thank you. I appreciate these super chats. He says Streffler was our summer of hope. Plus chaos. Thanks, man. I don't know what to say anymore, but thank you. Strevler's very lucky to have you as his fan.
he is, man.
As am I for the channel.
Yeah.
Is he listed as a guard? No, he's listed as a tackle because he plays tackle, right?
Yeah, he's listed as a tackle. But he's listed as a tackle who, come draft day when his name's called in April, they might announce him as a guard.
Right.
Just like they did with AVT. AVT was a tackle, but he was announced as an offensive guard. So, and Grandizer puts here Zion Nelson from Miami. But, he's one of the few prospects that, well, I shouldn't say few, but he's one of the guys in most recent times that I remember whose stock has taken a significant hit the longer he stayed in school. If he had come out when he was eligible, I think 2 years ago, even last year, he probably would have been a second round pick, but he stayed in school and he just didn't produce. And, he's probably, you're talking, 4th, 5th, 6th round now, probably, for a guy like Zion Johnson. Jarrett Patterson, everyone's favorite center from last year's mock draft from Notre Dame's another guy. He come out, if he comes out last year, he's probably a top 50, top 60 pick. If he gets drafted this year in the if it's a 4th or 5th round, I'd be, it wouldn't surprise me.
Just to answer Troy's question, look, I think it's just a matter of Becton hasn't played in 2 years, and I just don't think that many people believe that we can rely on him, to be there. And then Mitchell is not a sure thing. We're all hopeful. We all love Mitchell and love what he did for the team, and we're all hopeful. But blood clots are not a joke. It's a very serious thing, and if they're not completely gone, or he needs to be on like a very intense dosage of blood thinners, this can impact him being able to play. Like, it's very real. We don't know, a lot of times, especially when you're young, you can get blood clots beyond blood thinners for 3 to 6 months. They lower the dosage and then make a full recovery. And then there are people who have to stay on blood thinners the rest of their lives, or for 5 years or 6 years, or, it depends on what caused it. I'm not a doctor, but I can only tell you from life experience that, with blood clots, it varies. Some people recover, some people don't fully recover and have to be on medication. So we don't know 100% that Max Mitchell is going to be back this year. We don't even know 100% if he'll ever be able to play football again, because I don't think they went into the specifics of the blood clots and what caused them. And is he going to be somebody that has a condition for that?
Sure.
So we just don't know. So with all that uncertainty, that's why we have to think about drafting a tackle.
Yeah. And I saw somebody in the chat who talked about CJ Stroud. From what I understand, and from my sources, he's going back to school. He's got until tomorrow to announce, but from what I'm getting, CJ Stroud's going to go back to Ohio State next year. And I can only imagine it's all about probably around a couple things. One, he doesn't want to play for the Texans if he thinks that the kid from Alabama is going to go number 1 overall. He doesn't want to play for the Texans, or maybe he doesn't want to. He doesn't like the situation for the other teams that are in need of quarterback, Indianapolis, Carolina, so on and so forth. Or 2, now that they get the NIL money, they can make a pretty penny on that. So why not, ride it out, push forward, try to win another national championship, and then come back in next year. Now, next year's quarterback class is absolutely stacked, So the hopes that he gets picked higher than he will this year, because I think he's a top 5 pick if he enters the draft this year. The chances that he's a top 5 pick last year go, remarkably down. But when is the juice worth the squeeze? You go back, he can make millions of dollars in NIL money, live the life of a college kid, get better, and push for a national championship. Maybe that has something to do with it. They also say that Brian Hartline, who was the wide receivers coach there, who's now the offensive coordinator, has a lot to do with it. That CJ Stroud and Brian Hartline are very, very close. So maybe he thinks something good is in the works for him in college. But from what I understand and from what I'm hearing, CJ Stroud's going back to college.
Yep, that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
Jim Pock asks, is Becton healed? Well, I think you have to define healed. Like if Dom C would have had this injury and is at the point where Becton is, I think in our regular life, he'd call it healed. He'd be back to walking around with his kids. He'd be back to living his life.
Yeah.
But from the definition of NFL football ready, is he healed in the sense that he could play on an NFL field with the grinds and all the things that you have to do with your knee? I think the answer is probably no.
Yeah.
I think he's at a point where he still has to build a lot of strength around the muscles, and there's still a lot of healing, and like we don't feel as regular people when we're hurt.
Yeah, healing for us normal people, and really healing for an NFL player are 2 completely separate things. Just like Jeremy said, if we need to heal enough so that we can get back to walking our dogs and sitting comfortably at our desks at our jobs, then yes, if we have to, if we have to grind and put stress on our joints and pretty much use our legs as the means of our income, then probably not. I don't know.
Right, because it takes a while for the muscles to completely heal, the inflammation to completely go away. You might not feel it, you might not know, but it's there on an X-ray. That's why doctors have to check, because the player could say, I feel great, and the doctors are saying, we'll check again in a couple of weeks, because the X-rays are still showing inflammation. I mean, so
I know that he's working out, Jim Pock. I know that he's in Florham Park and he's working out. So the healing process.
He's not on crutches.
The healing process is definitely in play. I don't know if he's necessarily still injured, but again, that's only what I hear, in a vacuum 5 miles up. Nobody really knows. The guys at One Jets Drive know.
I'll tell you this, though. If he was walking around that building with a limp or crutch or anything that showed any weakness at all, Connor Hughes would be all over it and letting us know.
Right? Yeah.
You want to do a little mock?
I'll leave it up to the chat. You guys want to do a mock?
You guys want to do a little mock draft? Since
you guys have any questions on the tackles? I mean, I know I didn't drill down, very deep. And that will come, because we're going to have this Sunday show many, many times before April. So
I think they all want to do a mock. It's starting to pour in.
Yeah, let's do one.
Okay, let's do a mock with our new information. And let's not do trades. Let's just not do trades. Let's just pick it straight up so we can talk about the players that are available.
Yeah, cool.
Okay. Present.
Jacob, if you're talking about Peter Skoronski, is he a fit for a wide zone scheme? I think he's not scheme dependent. He can fit a gap power scheme. He can fit a very pass happy, kind of spread offense. He can fit the outside zone. I think that he kind of fits whatever you need. Like I said, he's a jack of all trades, man. I really, really like the player.
Okay, so I selected Jets, 7 full rounds, fast speed, so we don't have to wait around too long. We're
Yeah.
not going to do trades anyway. Everybody sees the screen, right? Yeah, I can see
Mhm.
it. Okay, so let's draft.
Before you get into that, before you hit start, or
Oh,
too late.
sorry. Okay,
That's
well, I
okay.
can start over. I can redo it.
No, you could just wait there. That's fine. I want to answer Grandizer. So Jalen Duncan is another very, very good tackle. He's number 11 on my list. From
So he
Maryland.
just missed.
He asked a
just
question.
missed.
He just missed my top 10. Again, I reserve the right to change him as the draft season moves closer. So, there's only, like I said, I didn't want to come on here and talk about in depth about 20 or 25 tackles. Jeremy probably would not ask me to come back if that was the case.
It's probably not true, but
Yeah.
better that you didn't. So Rendell, I see also some. I don't know if you're being serious when you say we're still a West Coast offense, but I think that it depends on who we hire at OC. I mean, it's very simple. They said that we don't. It's not required of the offensive coordinator that they hire that he runs a West Coast.
Yeah. Hey, James Thompson, I didn't see your mock. So if you want to, if you want, I'll be happy to give you my 2 cents on it. You can, DM me on Twitter and let me know what it is. And we can,
Sure.
I'll give you my 2 cents for what it's worth.
So just curiosity of what our what trades people make.
Uh-huh.
Here's one that says drop down 11 and we'll let you upgrade your pick 74 to pick 56 and we'll give you our first round pick next year. Wouldn't that be tempting if that was really offered?
Yeah. You know what? No, I know we're not doing trades, but I'm just curious. I want to plug that in and see. Hang on one second, Jeremy. I'm going to see where that fits in the draft trade chart. Just curious. So tell me what picks it is again.
They're offering us 24.
Okay.
56. Okay, for our 13th and our 74. For 13 and 74.
13 and 74 is
they're offering
1370 in points.
Okay, and they're offering pick 24.
Let me just type in Jacksonville.
56. And 2024 first. I love that, man. Imagine having 2 first picks.
So I don't know what the 2024 first would cost, but I'd probably say it's right about 1,000 points. So that would be highly skewed towards the Jets if you're talking about just a straight draft trade chart.
I mean, that like in real life, because it wouldn't help us in this draft, obviously, I would be all over that because I'd say at 24, we still might get one of our tackles.
Yeah.
Right. And then
listen, if we were doing trades, this would probably be one that we'd have to highly, highly consider.
I mean, because 74 going to 56 is big. That can get, that center we're talking about, like with the second pick, but still get another guy that we want. I mean, there's so much value in that.
Yeah.
And then in next year, we go into next year with 2 first round picks.
Yeah.
Wow. And then look at Dallas. They're saying go down to the 25th, and we'll just give you pick 89 and our first round pick. Yeah. That might be more valuable than Jacksonville's first round.
Yeah, you're right.
Wow, that's huge. These are, see what I mean? Like if we get anything like this, I wouldn't blame GD for doing this.
Depending who's on the board.
And look at the Chargers.
It's very similar to the Jacksonville one.
Look at better. I mean, really similar, better because we're only going down to 22nd.
Yeah,
we go up to 55, which is still just as good, and we get there first. And I don't know that their first round pick is going to be any better or worse than Jacksonville.
Yeah.
That's a great trade. These are great trades.
So I'm curious, who's been taken so far?
Yeah, that's the other thing you have to look at in these situations. So let's look and see who's on the board.
Go all the way up. Scroll all the way up.
So if we're looking here, Paris Johnson went number 1 overall, which I think is crazy. Will Anderson, Miles Murphy, Bryce Young,
Quentin Johnson, Anthony Richardson. Oh, good Lord.
Jalen Carter, which I'm not so.
7. Yeah,
CJ Stroud is not going to be there, so they're not updated.
Yeah.
Noah Sewell, Trent.
Ugh.
Look at this. Will Lewis.
Will Levis.
Great. This is great for us because look what would be on the board for us if we go. I don't see any other tackles there. So let's look at offensive tackle. Peter is still on the board because they have him ranked 22nd. Broderick Jones, Anton Harrison, Matt Bird, they're all there. All your guys, your top 5 are all there.
All those guys, they were.
All your top 5 are there.
Well, not really. I think Wright was 6, Bergeron was 7, but guys that I talked about, yeah.
All the names I'm saying, they're the top of the board.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. You see, if I was playing the board and not being real life,
this is a trade down. If you got these trade offers and the board looks like this, you trade down and not even think about it.
Right, but real life, we're going to take our guy, right? We're going to go down and just take, because in real life, we would just grab Peter now. We wouldn't play around.
Yeah, well.
If he's there, we would grab him, right? Wouldn't we just grab him in a heartbeat?
I would say so. I mean, there's still other guys on this board. Like I saw Brian Branch is on the board. Michael Mayer is a great prospect. Again, we don't need a tight end necessarily, but.
Yeah. What do you say? I say we take Peter right now. We just grab him.
Well, if we're not going to do trades, if we're not doing trades, then that's the pick. Then I would say Skoronski. I'll leave it up to you guys in the chat if you like tackle here or if you want to look at a different position.
Yeah, if everybody teams up and wants something else together as a collective group, we'll do it. Otherwise, we'll have different theme mock drafts, obviously, on the channel where I'll let the chat, make the picks and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
For tonight's purposes, since we're over an hour and a half in, I think we're just going to take Peter.
Let's go. Now, the only other question, hit all and scroll up all the way.
Okay.
Is there any other guys there that you like? I mean, Brian Brisse's in such a thin defensive, interior defensive tackle class, you got to consider somebody like Brian Brise. Like I said, I
wouldn't be mad.
I talked until the cows come home on my opinions on Brian Branch as well. I don't think that necessarily you probably take him at 13. Or Joe Douglas will take him at 13, but he's a talented guy. He's a top 10 player on my board.
Look, if we traded down and ended up with Brian Branch, or if we took Brian Brise in this spot, none of it makes me mad.
Yeah. So they're saying let's just take Skoronski and we'll stay no trades for this mock.
Okay. But I want to make that clear. I would not be mad if they went defensive tackle. I'd be surprised that they didn't just grab the number 1 tackle on the board, in my opinion, in your opinion. But I wouldn't be mad.
Yeah.
As long as he hits. If that guy turns up to be a stud DT sitting next to Quinton, we're going to be pretty awesome on defense.
Yeah. So in this situation with no trades, we have our offensive tackle lined up, Peter Skoronski, my number 1 tackle on the board. I love it.
Look how much better of a trade offer this one is. This is so much better than this.
Yeah.
So that's tempting. You see, that would tempt me, depending on who's on the board. But at 56, we don't get the guy we might want. And for those of you wondering who we might want, look at that. Anton Harrison slipped.
Yeah. Yeah. But Matthew Bergeron was taken. So like I said, again, it's a mock draft simulator, so these things are always a little bit skewed. Paris Johnson's not going to go number 1 overall to Chicago, so you can take that. And the fact that there's 2 linebackers taken in the top 10 that's in this draft, that's crazy talk. So, but nonetheless, we've secured our offensive tackle. So other positions in need that we have. I know you've highlighted JL Skinner. I love JL Skinner. I think he's a phenomenal prospect. I think he's a very rangy safety. He's a big guy. He can play in the box. He's a guy that I also think that would fit Saleh's scheme very well. I think he's a guy that can transition into linebacker and play linebacker as well in JL Skinner. He's got that versatility. He's that kind of player. He's my number 2 safety on the board. He's my number 2 safety in the class behind Brian Branch, and it's probably not close. So I think safety is an option. I think interior offensive line, there's good centers on the board. Maybe a little too early in some people's mindset. But John Michael Schmitz is a great football player. He really is.
Jack Campbell, people are saying.
Jack Campbell is a linebacker. I think
we talked about to be found. He's way down. Like we'd be reaching, according to this. I can't even find him.
Yeah, Jack Campbell. I personally at the linebacker position. I like Drew Sanders from Arkansas a little bit more than Jack Campbell. Obviously, I like Trenton Simpson a little bit more than Drew Sanders. Jack Campbell's a great player. He misses tackles a little too much for my liking. Like I said, I just think it's a little too rich right here.
Yeah, I mean, according to them, it's rich. I mean, like it's a big reach, but who's not a big reach? Skinner.
Skinner's not a big reach
because he's right there. I mean, he's actually,
yeah. So if you guys don't know about Skinner, Jeremy, click on that little info tab and you can read it.
Checks all the boxes mentally, brings plenty to like as well. Skinner is an active pre-snap communicator who points out formations and gets his teammates in place. He can quickly recognize swings and underneath routes and track them to the sideline. We need pass coverage. Skinner is also able to read options and leverage himself against blockers to close off running lanes.
Yeah,
sounds like he can do a lot.
So I'll tell you this about JL Skinner, guys. He's not your traditional, like ball hawking center field free safety. Although he can play it, he's more of a versatile weapon. Think of a guy that can do many things. He can play center field. He can come up in the box and be a force against the run. The guy hits like a Mack truck. He's a big guy, 6'4", probably about 220 pounds. Like I said, he's a guy I could see that, teams put a couple more pounds on him and turn him into a zone, like a Tampa 2 middle linebacker or something along those schemes. Like I think he could transition to that as well. He's a phenomenal football player. I really like the guy. Now, if you bypass safety here, the pot thins a little bit. There's still some good guys. Joseph from Notre Dame is going to be there. The other Alabama safety is going to be there. Ohio State's got a couple good safeties that come into play in that late second, early third, late third round. So there are some options if you choose to pass on safety here. I would say if you're asking me, you're either going safety or you're going interior offensive line, center or guard.
Right. Now, one thing I want to say is that if we sign McGovern in a friendly deal, like if we got McGovern in a way we feel comfortable, you could, I don't know, maybe it's been too long to think about this. Is it still a possibility to say, we could take this center and have McGovern as a backup center and interior guard, like a well-rounded backup?
I think if you re-sign McGovern, he's your starter.
Right.
And I'm fine. Yeah. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. It doesn't kind of push you away from having to draft another center because you're going to have somebody you want to have somebody in the pipeline. It's really going to come around the financials. What are we paying a free agent quarterback to come here? And if it's $30 million plus, it's probably going to be at the cost of re-signing Connor McGovern, and you're going to have to draft a center that can come in and play. And if that's the case, a guy like John Michael Schmitz would be ideal.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I mean, my thought is obviously after free agency, we're going to know if we don't re-sign McGovern and he goes to another team.
Mhm.
There's no question in my mind we take John Michael Schmitz here, right? But if we sign McGovern, I say you take a center that you can develop for a year behind McGovern, right?
Yeah.
So then you
And the
take
guys, I know there's a bunch of guys in the chat talking about Ricky Stromberg from Arkansas. Great prospect also. You know, he's a guy, if you pass on Schmitz here and you want to go safety or you want to go interior defensive line, which is another position I really think you need to look at because it's just very, very thin. And we're going to have a lot of holes to plug in the interior defensive line. Then you can hold off on center and draft. I think the center might be have a little bit more depth in the third, fourth, fifth round than say safety and definitely interior defensive line.
And I think based on what you said and knowing JD, he likes playmakers. He wants impact players. And if he's going to finally go invest a real pick in safety and really invest something,
Mhm.
would be the time to take JL Skinner. Like this is the moment.
Let's do it. JL Skinner, welcome to the Jets.
All right. And now we go down. We've taken a tackle and a safety. We can go linebacker or
Interior defensive line.
interior offensive line, linebacker, defensive tackle, probably more
Yep.
defensive tackle or offensive line.
Yeah.
We're not going
to make any trades here.
Okay. So here's where it gets a little fishy for me usually when I'm doing these drafts.
Okay.
According to the board, we don't get a lot of value here for the positions we need. Only linebacker, right? So if I zoom in.
And I think Drew Sanders is a great player. I think Drew Sanders and Owen Papo as well. I think they're both legitimate NFL starting caliber players. I think they're both going to have good careers. So I would be content with either of those two guys. I would like you to look at the interior defensive line, if you could.
Well, let's scroll down and see who comes. You see what I'm saying? None of our positions are coming. Look how far back we're going. But
Chris Smith is also another guy. Very, very good ball player. My favorite safety from last year's draft, Lewis Cine. Chris Smith reminds me a lot of Lewis Cine. So if you do pass on and Lucas Van Ness, that's ridiculous that he's still on the board. He's a first round talent. The guy's going in the top 20. Mark it down.
Yeah, I don't know why he's so far back. So here's the first time we bump into a defensive tackle, and it's Byron Young from Alabama.
Who's a good player. Yeah.
But this might all change, right? After the combine, he might move up into the top 30.
Oh, he could move down into the 120 range as well.
Right.
Yeah. So
you see, it's a reach to take him, right? And I still don't see any interior guys. Look how far back I have to go. 93. We get up to Emil Ekiyor.
Yeah. Now, Mozzie Smith is a great defensive tackle. He's a true big body, run stuff in defensive tackle.
He might be there in the third round.
Yeah, and he might be more. Well, we're in the third round.
In the fourth round.
Yeah, he might be more of a fit in a 3-4 scheme. But I think he's got the run stuffing capabilities to play alongside Q and be really good. Now, he's got some character issues. I know he's been arrested for an illegal weapon on campus. So, something like that might just take him off JD's board completely. But talking about the player and the prospect alone, he's very good.
So, I mean, so this is our dilemma. It really is. And this is what I bumped into every time when you get to this portion of the draft, we're not aligned with the best value for our positional needs.
Yeah,
it sucks, but it's like
Listen, you can go linebacker. You can feel comfortable with linebacker. You can look at the offensive lineman. Who's that? Oh, Drew Sanders, yeah. So Drew Sanders played at Alabama and he transferred to Arkansas. And he really just
kind of guy though. Does he fit our defense?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
I think he absolutely fits our defense. He's got enough chops to play off ball. He would he's a Sam, similar to what Quincy Williams played this year.
Okay. Well, we could replace him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't complain.
So I'm curious, can you go to the offensive line?
Sure. Offensive.
Interior, go to center. We know the guards are there. And see, and here we go. And those top 4 right there, I think they're all viable players.
Fourth round.
All really good. Luke Whippler, I don't know if he's gone or where they have him in this. He's probably my second favorite center in this draft.
Yeah. So
Oluwatani. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say we could definitely 4th round get one of these guys.
Yeah, Oluwatani is a great player. I see Braden talking about the Marion Overshone.
I love Overshone.
Yeah, a lot of guys do. I don't know if he's got the chops. What I do like about him is that he's versatile.
He's already been picked.
I'm just saying in general.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I got it. I'm just telling Braden he's been picked.
Yeah, he's he can play inside or outside. But his tape wasn't like super impressive. Like I said, I think Jack Campbell's tape was better. I think Drew Sanders' tape was a lot better than Overshone. I don't see Overshone going, I don't see him a day 2 pick. I think he's a day 3 pick. I think he's a 4th rounder.
Do you think Drew Sanders is better than Jack Campbell?
They're different players. I like them both. I have Drew Sanders rated higher, but I would be happy with either of them, to be honest with you.
Right.
Jack Campbell is they're a little bit different. Jack Campbell, he's a physical presence. I'm not saying I'm not aligning his game to him. I'm not comping him to him, but figure like just to wrap your head around it. Figure Jack Campbell's more CJ Mosley and Drew Sanders is more Quincy Williams or Quan Alexander.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm looking at Drew Sanders and I'm thinking, not bad for a 3rd round pick.
No, and none of them would. Like I said, if you talk linebacker, Sanders, Papo, Jack Campbell, they'd all be, this is the range they're going to go. Late 2nd round, early 3rd round. So it's really, if you want to go linebacker, it's which one do you prefer? I don't
really want to. I'd rather there be a very high rated defensive tackle left on the board up here.
Well, who's on the board? Who's on the board? The defensive tackles.
Brian Young or Maisie Smith.
Jacqueline Roy is also a really good player. I like him a lot. I like him a hell of a lot.
We could get him in the 4th, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we only got 1 4th round pick, so you can't get everybody.
Right.
If we're going to and that's what I'm saying. If you're going to bypass the center now, you're probably going to look in the 4th round for a center.
This is when we start getting into that discussion of why it might be really helpful to trade down.
Absolutely, which I think is more realistic than a lot of people want to wrap their heads around. However, why don't we do this for argument's sake and to speed it up? Why don't we leave it up to the chat? Do you want linebacker? Do you want defensive tackle, or do you want center here? And you go with the first 3 that you see, Jeremy, if they give feedback.
Right. Guys, give your positions. Where should we go?
Because I think those are the 3 areas of need that you can, justifiably make sense. Listen.
Twisted says center, here and now. That's 1. Brayden says center. Center's winning 2-0 to nothing. Linebacker, so 2-1. Linebacker 2 up. Defensive tackle. Oh, linebacker wins. Jinbok. Oh, linebacker made a huge comeback.
All right, so let's go linebacker.
Okay.
And the question is do you want
Campbell or
Jack Campbell or Drew Sanders?
Jack Campbell or Drew Sanders?
I don't have, like I said, I have them ranked very, very close. I have Sanders ranked higher just for the fact that I think he's a little bit more versatile than Campbell. Campbell's a big guy. I don't know if he's really a fit for schematic fit for us, to be honest with you. That's my opinion.
Sanders. 1 for Sanders. One vote for Sanders. Is that going to be it? I'll give like 15 more seconds. 15, 14, 13. You got to actually give more time because they're behind us. 12, 11, 10, 9. So far it's Sanders because of one vote. 8, 7.
Drew Sanders is the pick. Let's go.
Okay. Nobody's voting, so we're just gonna say Sanders. A lot of them are just mad that we're doing a
Linebacker.
linebacker. Okay. Somebody's saying our offense is not going to get better. Our offense is going to get better because we just took a tackle. Becton's coming back. AVT's coming back. Brees Hall is coming back.
Just hopefully all those centers aren't off the board right now.
Right. See, so now if we go to center, you'll see that they're not all off the board. They're here. Like, isn't this guy one of them?
Oluwatani, yeah, he's a great player.
Right,
I think it's a no-brainer. You run this in the 4th round. You run this up to the podium.
Right. You run it up the podium. You take him. There's your center, guys.
Yep.
You still sign McGovern. Let this guy sit behind McGovern for a year if we have to. If McGovern is not signed, then we put this guy in and hope he's ready to go.
So what do we got here? We got Kenny McIntosh. We're not gonna draft a running back.
We're definitely not gonna. Here's a defensive tackle, right?
Zach Pickens. Yeah, he's not bad. Rashad Torrance, I also like a hell of a lot too. He's a good safety. If you want to double up at safety. Now, the big question is the name right on the bottom there, Tanner McKee. Let me tell you about Tanner McKee a little bit. Tanner McKee has an outstanding arm. He's got arm talent. Like, he's got the size that you want your NFL quarterback to be. He's got the arm talent that you want your NFL quarterback to have. He played on a horrible, horrible offense in Stanford and still produced. Now, he's a little bit of an older prospect because I know for a fact he did take some time off for a Mormon mission. So I know some Jets fans are going to be hesitant to take another Mormon quarterback. But if you're talking about like one of those late round quarterbacks, kind of just sit there and develop, Tanner McKee's not a bad option here.
Mm-hmm.
Not pushing that way. I'm just saying. I'm just speaking the board here.
No, I get it. There's a possibility we're going to take a quarterback without question. I think it's a possibility. We're going to know more. If they sign a veteran guy, let's say we get the Derek Carr, oh my God, and they re-sign Mike White also for $2 million, $3 million a year somehow. Let's say they do that. We're not taking a quarterback because we already have 3 then. Because Zach was stuck with, we'd have Mike White, and then we would have Derek Carr, for example. So then there wouldn't even be a way to keep him on the roster because we're not going to keep 4 on the 53.
Yeah.
So we're going to know more by the draft. If we already have 3 guys on the team, like Zach is taking up 1 spot. If we get a new veteran quarterback that we trade for or buy, then is there going to be a 3rd spot? That's the question. If you've already signed a Mike White or some guy like that kind of guy, then the answer is no. Like we don't have room.
Well, listen, if we bring in a big time free agent, whether or not it's Derek Carr, you said the name Derek Carr, so I'll use that in this hypothetical. Chances that we bring back Mike White as well are very, very low. That's my opinion. I think it's going to be Zach Wilson backing up whoever big name free agent we bring in. So there's your quarterback room.
So now if you brought in Derek Carr, you'd say Derek Carr, Zach Wilson, and then maybe we would draft somebody.
Yeah, exactly. But
more likely we would get an undrafted free agent or something.
Could be. And
let him compete with Strevler.
Yeah.
Strevler. Can't believe I'm saying that.
So listen, you could fortify the offensive line here. I don't know what tackles are left on the board. You can add another
one. We already took a tackle.
Exactly, but if you wanted to strengthen the room a little bit more, you can go that way.
Let's look and see what we got left on the internal offensive line. Right? Okay, guards, because we haven't done that.
I mean, these guys. No one's going to be really of value here, to be honest with you. Matt Jones is a good player, but he's a 6th round pick. We're in the 4th here. It's way too early for him.
Right. And then we're looking right here in the face at a defensive tackle, 5th round, the perfect spot to take one. He's 300 pounds, 6'4", big guy,
Mm-hmm.
and you seem to like him.
Yeah, he's not a bad player. I'd be more than content with him at this spot. You know, he's a depth or rotational piece. Go for it.
Okay. We take Zach Pickens. And I don't think we have any more picks, right? That was it. We have 5 picks.
No, we have 6, I believe.
Oh,
There
there
we
you
are.
go. Right. How did we get that 6th? I thought we didn't have it. Okay.
No, we the way this simulator does it, I think we have 2 5th-round picks. And I think they probably gave one of the 5th-round picks that we traded to Jacksonville and kept our 6th. I don't know what the real breakdown is.
So the question is, do we grab Jackson Kirkland here and shore up our tackles?
Yeah, I don't know if Kirkland stays a tackle in the pros, but he's a guy that could have some flexibility between guard and tackle.
Oh, he's a big guy.
Yeah.
He's a big man. 6'7". Only 310, so he's not fat.
Yeah.
Wow, he's a big man.
Yeah.
Maybe now is where we take that backup quarterback.
So you're
Thompson Robinson.
So he's a very, very unique talent.
This guy?
Think Tyler Huntley.
Oh,
The quarterback for Baltimore.
yeah.
You know, very, very agile, very fast. Not the best with his arm. He's not gonna, he's a guy that's a true development project. So yeah. So that's where we're at.
All right. So who would you take? Who's the best player here, do you think? Right now we can go for just value of player.
I don't know much about the pit edge there. I can't really say. Like I said, Thompson Robinson's a good project. He's not going to wow you as a quarterback. He's probably one of those guys that he'll bounce around from practice squad to practice squad. Jalen Green's a good player.
You know those safeties, that's for sure.
Yeah. I can't.
Let's just take. Let me see.
You want to take Kirkland?
No, I was tempted to take Dorian and just say if he's like a Tyler Huntley, I like that. That might not be a bad guy to have in the room. If you have like a Derek Carr and a Zach Wilson, and Zach isn't performing and doing well, then you try something different and have a mobile quarterback, quick quarterback.
He is not the most accurate quarterback with his arm, but he can make plays with his feet.
Mm-hmm.
On
top of his mobility.
Yeah, he does a lot of stuff off platform.
Yeah, what the hell?
Go for it, man.
All right, so I think we're done. We can look and see how we did. Chode Uglas thinks we should just draft a quarterback at every spot. And I actually told a friend that, and I was halfway serious. I said, we should just draft only quarterbacks forever until we freaking get a quarterback. I'm so sick of it that we can never get a quarterback. So here's what we have. We have we get our tackle.
Yeah.
We get our tackle, plug and play. Great protection for whoever plays quarterback. JL Skinner, get ourselves a really good safety.
Mm-hmm.
Finally fill that void.
A versatile one nonetheless. So, if you wanted to move off of Whitehead, he can play strong safety. If you wanted to pair him with Whitehead, he could do that as well. If you wanted to put him down at linebacker in certain schemes, he can do that as well. I really like JL Skinner as a prospect.
A nice, talented linebacker who can cover and he's gotten some interceptions in college. I mean,
yeah, he was used a lot in Alabama. He was used a lot as an edge rusher too. He kind of transitioned from just being a strictly, 3-4 style outside linebacker edge rusher to more of an off-ball 4-3 linebacker. I think he's a good scheme fit for us, Drew Sanders.
Nice. And then we get this guy,
Oluwatani.
Olutami. for center. So this is a guy. If we have to, you think he can plug and play?
Listen, I think there's a bunch of centers that can come in and do that. And so, yes, to answer your question, I think if he was your worst offensive lineman in your front five, you're in pretty good shape.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then we take a shot on this kid, Zach Pickens. Maybe he rotates a little bit, brings some value.
Rotational, and then you really threw a dart. We threw a dart with the quarterback position,
which I think we need to do. We need to throw darts in the quarterback position. I mean, until especially with young guys, if we're going to sign a veteran to a 3 or 4 year deal, every once in a while you pick some of these young guys, you throw some darts, and maybe we end up with our quarterback of the future. Who knows?
Yeah, I like it. I'd be happy with that. Like I said, if those draft trades really came to light, I think you'd probably trade down in that first round and take one of those packages. They were too good to pass up. However, for the sake of this draft, we said we weren't going to trade. So let's see what happens here.
Yeah.
And that's it, man.
That's it. No. So that was offensive tackles. And I don't know. Do you want to tell them what we're going to do next week, or should we keep it a surprise for now?
You tell me which class you want to do.
I think we should do safeties. I mean, because I think that's the number 2, right? I mean, we talked about tackles.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think that safety is a glaring hole on our team. I think that we, I don't believe LaMarcus Joyner will be back. And if he's back, he should not be a starter. And Whitehead has been a disappointment. And by the way, we saw that Whitehead, I'm not saying it's likely to happen, but Whitehead would only cost $3 million dead cap to cut and would save us $7 million. Do you think there's any chance it happens?
I don't think it's that far fetched, especially if you designate him June 1st, because you can split that $3 million and have it 1.5 for the next 2 years. So I don't think it's that far fetched, but at some point you're going to get to it. Okay, we can cut all these guys to free up cap space, but we still have to fill the holes. Exactly. So is the juice worth the squeeze?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. All right.
So
thanks, Tom.
Hey, man. I will go ahead after you.
No, I was going to say, tell them where you'll be. Tell them where to find you. So,
so you guys can always see me on Twitter at DC_NY Jets. I'm there all the time. I'm pretty active. I will be co-hosting the Monday night mock, 10 o'clock mock with Green Bean on Green Bean Jets fan YouTube channel starting tomorrow. So we will be doing that show every Monday, 10 p.m. until draft day comes. We're going to do that. And like I said, looking forward to spending some time next week at the Senior Bowl. We will be doing a lot of interaction. Both Green Bean and I will be down there. So you get a lot of insight. You get a lot of the scoop, all that good stuff, man. I'm really, really excited for this. Really excited for this. I'm really excited for this draft season.
Cool. And you'll be on tomorrow. I know some people are asking for more mocks. Green Bean will be here with Dom C tomorrow. A Green Bean Jets fan. Green Bean Jets fan tomorrow night. You will get all that. Look, Grandizer is already showing people where to go. You guys know where he is. Dom will be on tomorrow night. I can't wait. It's always a fun show. Green Bean likes to throw a twist in all his different mock drafts.
Yeah, they could go until 2 a.m, those ones.
And guys, I might, I'm off tomorrow. I might pop in the middle of the day and do a random mock. You know me. So keep your eyes and ears open. You never know when I'm going to come in and do a mock draft. And if I do one tomorrow and I do that, there'll be lots of trades. I want to see how many. I want to have one of those fun drafts where I get us like 10 and 11 guys.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Jeremy, man. This was great. I had a blast as always. I'm happy to be back on Sundays with you, man. It's always fun.
I appreciate you coming on, man. Great show, and I look forward already to next week.
All right, guys. Until then.
All right. Take care, everybody. Let me see.
Don't not be Thibodeau. And here it comes. It's about to come in. Oh my God! They didn't. They took Sauce Gardner. Oh my God, they don't want an edge. Maybe he likes Jermaine Johnson at 10. Then we're not going to get a wide receiver?
Garrett Wilson, wide receiver. Oh my God, no edge. The Jets traded up. The Jets traded up. Are we taking JJ? Are we taking JJ? Because I know Braden is in New Zealand saying, we should get Young, Mike. He's definitely saying that. JJ! We got Johnson! We got Johnson at 26! We got Johnson at 26! This is great! Yes! They took Roger McCreary, they didn't take Dean, and we traded up. We can get Nakobe Dean. We can get Nakobe Dean. It really is. They took Breece Hall. They took Breece Hall. Wow. I mean, look, I love Breece Hall. But there's also Jeremy Ruckert, who I think is the best tight end in the class personally. They took Jeremy Ruckert. They took Jeremy Ruckert. Yes! We got a Jeremy. We got a Jeremy. Oh, and the Jets pick, and it's Max Mitchell, offensive tackle. We needed that. That's wow. We took Michael Clemens. I never heard of him. A defensive edge.